Hey, what's up? My name is James Chaley and welcome to my channel. Today I have a very special guest. I'm here with Megan Aldridge and we're going to talk about magic systems in fantasy fiction. And I'll just hand it right off to Megan. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey, so I'm Megan Aldridge. I am a author and proofreader and now author tuber. I am currently in the editing process of my debut novel, a dark fantasy historical romance entitled Queendom of Chaos.
That's great. Yeah, I was a beta reader for that book, which was fantastic. And Megan was a critique partner for my book, A Flower in Hell. That's how we know each other. And this is our second collaboration. I'll put one of those thingies, no, where am I pointing? I don't know. I'll put one of those tags up in the corner so you can see the last collab we did, which was Writing Outside Your Gender, which is a lot of fun. But this video is about magic systems in fiction, and since both of our books have magic in them, I figured it's something cool to talk about. And I'm going to do what Megan did before. I'm going to have topics, the questions pull out of a hat. And I think didn't you have the Mariners? Was that your team?
I did, Mariners, yep.
So since I'm hosting this time, I'm going to pick my team. So I have the good old Guinness. So I'll just put these in and we can get started. Without spoilers, can you tell us a little bit about magic in your setting?
So the magic system in my novel is interwoven with nature. So the light sort of magic called harmony, it's not necessarily the good magic. Nature doesn't really have a good or a bad, it just is what it is. And then my darker magic called chaos, and that would be considered a darker sort of magic. It works against nature, so kind of just the opposite. It's definitely a lot less stable, and I mean, it's chaos, it's chaotic. That's what it does. So in a world that runs off magic, chaos is definitely something to be feared. The world runs off harmony, so they don't really need chaos. And then I have right in the middle where there's called alchemy magic. It's also, it's not good or bad. It can run off harmony or chaos, just kind of whatever you put into it. You can make like potions with it or whatever. It's more like spells and brewing things. So you can use that for anything like outside of what you normally would use harmony or chaos for. So it kind of covers everything.
Nice. And your book's called Queendom of Chaos, so
yes.
Hint, hint. Yeah. So let's see, from my setting, if you have magic, you have one kind of magic and you really can't step outside there. So you could have fire magic and you can produce flames and do things with fire, or ice. You can, there is alchemy, right? There's mind magic where you can use telepathy and control minds and things like that. Everyone's kind of a one-trick pony, but there's a lot you can do within your own sphere. So it was originally based off of Dungeons and Dragons because that's where my main character came from, but I'm not going to duplicate, Dungeons and Dragons. And two, I didn't want a single wizard that could just do everything from like fly to control minds to, open locked doors to shoot flames and lightning. And I wanted to have a system that made sense and I could specialize and make it my own. Is your setting high or low magic? Can I describe what that is for our viewers, or?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, so a high magic setting would be like Harry Potter, the wizarding world of Harry Potter, where it's like everybody, all the wizards have magic. They have their own society. You see like dishes washing themselves and that sort of thing. That's a very high magic environment. Low magic, I would think, would be like Lord of the Rings, where you see Gandalf coming and you're like, whoa, that guy's a wizard. And he does some shit. You don't really know how it works, but it just happens and you just accept it.
Perfect, yeah. So my magic system and my world is definitely a high magic system. The entire world runs solely off of the use of magic. So without magic, they would cease to exist. They just wouldn't be there. So everything they do in their lives is magic. They farm with magic. Their transportation is magic. Everything. So I do have a scene in my book where they don't have access to magic, and it definitely has deadly consequences for them.
Yeah. Yeah, my own setting is maybe medium magic. There's definitely the people who have magic have it, but not everybody has it. And it's not necessarily prevalent through the entire setting. Yeah, medium, I guess I would go with for mine. So magic, is it learned? Can anyone learn it?
Yes, the magic system is learned. Certain bloodlines have magic naturally, but it's definitely not the social class. Like, it doesn't mean if you have magic, you're higher or lower than anyone else. It just means you have the magic, and they freely share it with everyone because the world does run on magic. They all need it, so they know it's a resource that needs to go around.
Yeah.
So basically what they do is they like bottle it up and kind of just ship it out throughout the world. And as long as they have access to magic, anyone can learn how to use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine, you're either born with it or you're not. So my book takes place on Hell. So some of the highborn devils have it, but most of the fiends, the demons and devils and stuff, don't. But for those that do have it, they of course need to learn their own craft. But it's not something that you can find like a magic book and just go, oh, I know magic now. It's you're born with it or you're not.
Yeah.
Your dragon hat staying on.
I know. I keep I feel like I'm just going back
Making
into
it.
my head. I'm like,
Before we started recording, Megan was debating how long it was going to last on top of her head. Besides magic spells, I already know the answer to this, and you spoke a little bit about this, but I'll ask it anyway. Besides magic spells, are there any other kinds of magic in your setting? Things like magical creatures, artifacts, potions, whatever.
Yeah, so I talked about this a little bit with the alchemy. It can be used to create potions, and there's more than just that. I have magical artifacts that have been blessed during certain blessing ceremonies or whatnot that people can use. And then I also have magical creatures in the world, and their magic is none of the above. It's not chaos, harmony, or alchemy. It runs in them. So just depending on each species, it just kind of depends. Their abilities, like elves kind of have like speed and strength, and then you'll read it and then you'll see. They all have their own things, which is really cool. So it's the only magic that's not actually tied into the world itself.
Yeah, that's one of the no spoilers. But I will say that I loved that part of world building when we got to meet some of these beings, these creatures, and I was like, ooh, because it wasn't expected for me, and when I did, it really like opened the world up into this magical realm that I really got into.
Yeah.
So what was the question again? Oh yeah, so magical creatures. Yeah, there's definitely other things that are magic in my world too. There's magic weapons. There's, I don't know if there's magic creatures, but there's definitely other magic items. I haven't shown potions and things like that or artifacts. You'll see them in book 2, but yeah. I don't really go into a lot of that stuff in the first book. Definitely magic weapons, though, and the actual casting of magic spells. How would your story change if magic was not part of it?
Oh gosh. Let's see.
You literally said the world would fall apart if it wasn't for the magic.
It would not have been created in the first place. So my magical world was created with magic. So
right.
If there was no magic,
you'd be telling us a different story.
Yeah. Even if it does somehow appear, there's still magic. Like there's magical bridges between our world and that world. So it's just like, it would not be a story at all. It couldn't happen the way that it does.
Yeah. Same for me. I think it's a high fantasy setting. Mine is, and there is magic. And I think that if I took magic out, I don't know that I'd want to stick with high fantasy. I'd be like, well, why am I bothering with all this like mythos and whatnot if there's no magic? I probably would have made Cynthia just take a path of only like martial, using weapons and fighting and stuff like that, and maybe made it a modern setting where she leaves Earth. I mean, she wants to escape hell to get to Earth, like our Earth, and it's a urban fantasy. But that's a completely different story than what I wrote,
I mean, I'd read that book too. I love Cynthia, and she's such a good fighter. I love all of her fight scenes, and I'm like, yes, Cynthia, do it, get it. So,
thank you.
I mean, I'd read that book, but
yeah. Oh, how did you come up with the limitations?
So I basically just went with the limitations that made sense. I mean, it's woven in with nature, so nature has its own set of limitations. So as long as I followed those rules, it made harmony pretty easy, which then made chaos pretty easy because like I just do like the opposite, whatever's dark and would counteract harmony. That's basically what I would need to stick to. And then for magical creatures, I don't know, I just picked what I liked.
Yeah.
I picked the traits and all the magical things that they could do. I just didn't want everything to be easy, so it was hard to pick limitations, and it definitely took me a while, but I went with what made sense.
Nice. Yeah, for me, I think, without spoilers, I think I had to come up with a way that if someone had magic or got magic, I didn't want them coming out of the gate like Aang the Last Airbender in season 3, just like, I wanted to show the journey. So I had to put limitations on learning. They had to learn some stuff, practice, meditation, tapping into the well of energy that's within you. That's all that kind of stuff. So they had to kind of ramp up to a level of power to be anything that was effective. Other than that, they're just like a sparkler, like, yay, they're not really doing much. You already answered this. Does your magic have a name?
Oh, yes. But I didn't give you all the names.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about chaos, which is, the name of my book, harmony and alchemy. But when you put them all together, it's referred to as the gift. Oh. Yes.
Nice. So does a person have the gift? Is that the correct way to use it?
It's more, it was given as a gift to the land. I mean, I don't think I'm giving away spoilers, like it's in my prologue, but, it's the goddess's gift. It's what they gave to the people. So they refer to it as the gift, and then there's different parts of it.
Yeah. Well, broadly, in my setting, it's just called magic, but everything does have a name. So there's mind magic, there's druid magic, divine magic, fire magic, lightning magic. The list goes on and on. There's probably stuff I haven't thought of yet. Wording magic is one of them. So yeah, they have names. It's just a lot of them.
Did you say wording?
Wording, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you said wording. I was like, is grammar like
one of yeah.
That would be the best power.
That would be cool, yeah.
Can all of us authors get this wording power, please?
Like, Oxford, comma. How does magic factor into your main character's life? Well, you have 2 main characters, right?
I do, yes. So I'll just talk about Sam, because the book is mostly in his perspective, so it's easier just to talk about his life. So magic is the inciting incident. So without it, he would just kind of continue on with his life. And I don't want to give away spoilers. There are things in his life that are magical that we don't know about yet. He doesn't know. So his life would be totally different, and the story would never happen because it's, I think on page like 4, something magical happens and it sets on his journey. So you couldn't have my story. His life would just be what it is. Yeah.
It would be a different book.
Exactly. Yeah. It would be very I mean, I don't think it'd be boring. I could make it fun. It just wouldn't be magical.
Yeah. You'd still have the historical romance at the very least.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? So which is
there would be a lot more happiness in their story, I think.
Yeah.
If I didn't have, magic.
True. Wow. So, well, this is in my book blurb, so I can say this much. My main character, Cynthia, has been promised by her mother a way to get to the mortal world. So she's living in hell. She wants to get out of hell. She wants to go to the mortal world. But for her to do that, she needs to learn her magic. She needs to unlock her powers. Now, she doesn't know exactly why. Her mother hasn't told her that yet. And you need to read the book for that. But that's really what, not the inciting incident, but that's really kind of the core of what she should be working on. Her day-to-day life is supposed to be learning magic, and her mother is supposed to reward her by sending her to the mortal world if she learns it.
Mm-hmm.
She's not a patient woman.
No. Not at all.
No.
Not the mother that I would choose to have.
No. What was the most important element when building your magic system?
The most important element for me was that things made sense. Yeah. I didn't want readers to be questioning things like, is this possible? Is it not possible? Why didn't they just use this to get out of the situation and avoid this whole thing?
Yeah.
So I wanted things to connect and make sense, and readers to kind of be able to just fill in the blanks as they went, so they knew, oh, they can't use this because of this, without me having to tell them. So I just kind of wanted to lay out a map and have them follow it.
And it worked, because I certainly wasn't confused by any of it. For me, it was a couple of things. One, I wanted to make it my own. I wanted to create my own thing, but I also didn't want it to be too complicated, like you said. And when I look at some books that have magic in them, and I'll just use the Iron Druid, for example, or even like Dresden Files, right? Where you could argue that those books are about a magical main character, and the magic is so quintessential to those books. And the authors go into how the magic is made and the components and the little bits and the things that you need to do to put this and this together to create this effect and all this kind of stuff. Honestly, I didn't want to deal with any of that. So even though Cynthia is someone striving to learn her magic, I didn't want the magic to be this kind of center stage thing necessarily. I didn't want to split time between talking about what she was doing to solve her problems with explaining how magic worked, with everything that she was doing. So that was just a style choice for me, and I just wanted to keep it simple and be like, this is how it works. This is what she's doing, How detailed does someone need to be in defining their magic system? So this is more of a question for like a viewer who might be thinking of building their own system. So
I think it definitely depends on whether you're going for high or low fantasy, or just the kind of fantasy story that you're telling. You don't need to be super detailed. You don't have to have every single detail figured out. If that's scaring you, that you think you have to know every spell and every consequence and you don't need to know all that. As long as things are making sense. Your readers just need the most basic understandings where they can say, okay, that makes sense. Now I understand why we're getting here or why we're not doing it this way. If you're going to have magic, come save the day at the end of it, it can't be out of nowhere. You have to at least set things up. So it's just about making sense of everything. You want things to be cohesive and your readers to know why things are happening, why, okay, we came out of nowhere and saved them all. You don't want, the Jose Machina. You don't want that. Yeah. So definitely set things up, show your magic. Again, your readers don't need info dumps. You don't need to tell them in their face. They can just watch the magic happen and kind of, they're smart. Let them fill in the blanks a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And you said it. You have to figure out what kind of world you're building. Is it high fantasy, low fantasy? Is it a high magic or a low magic system? And that's really what it's going to come down to, is how much you want to define what it is rules wise. Is magic just this amorphous thing that works in certain different ways, or is it, you need to put in components and cast spells and recite words and do specific things? And kind of like what you were saying, you can't just unveil it and say, surprise, here's magic and it fixes everything. But you also need to be consistent. So when you show it, you need to show the same thing, because your readers will pick up on it. They'll say, what? How can you do that? You didn't do that before. Why did you do that before? So I'd say consistency in line with the level of magic that you've picked for your world is important too. This is a good follow-up, actually. Is your magic system soft magic or hard magic? This is kind of like, instead of high versus low, where there's like a lot of magic everywhere or a little bit of magic everywhere, this is like, is it a very specific system that's defined, hard magic, or it's just kind of loosey-goosey, things happen, we don't really explain why, soft magic?
Good explanation. Yeah. One thing that always helps me remember it is like hard magic. They're rules, they're hard and fast rules. That's how I always kind of just think of it. Yeah. So my magic system is hard. The rules can't be broken. You can go in there and you can find loopholes and whatnot, but for the most part, nature has its rules and those are the rules you follow.
Yeah.
So my readers don't know all the rules up front. We're following a character who has no idea that magic exists, let alone its rules and how to use it. So things are kind of unveiled to the reader as they're unveiled to Sam, my MC. I just wanted a set of rules that were easy to follow and they made sense. And I didn't have to just throw things at the reader. And again, just like I wanted my readers to be able to fill in the blanks, follow along. If I say that this is a rule, then this is probably also a rule, which is why we're not going this direction. So
I guess mine's hard too, because you either have it or you don't, and you have a certain type of magic. So there are rules in terms of that. And then there's certain things that you can do within that. There's not a lot I can give away without examples, but, if you have mind magic, you can do things that influence the mind of your target. You can't fly, so that in and of itself is a rule, so that's why I would consider my magic system hard as well.
Yep.
We've done the last two.
Sweet.
Going through these. You only answer this one if it's non-spoiler free.
Okay.
Who has magic in your system? In your setting, sorry.
Okay, yeah, so I won't give names away or anything. But the ones who have magic, I already talked about the magical creatures. They each have their own set of whatever, depending on species. They can have this magic or this magic. And the royal bloodline. So those are the ones who are gifted with the magic. And once you read the prologue, it will definitely make sense. Don't skip my prologue, please.
No.
I know a lot of people skip prologues. Don't skip it.
Absolutely necessary.
Yes. So the royal bloodlines, they're the one who are gifted with the magic and they just share it with everyone. It's not like, oh, I have magic, mine. So it's just throughout the land. So there's a few who naturally wield it and everyone else just kind of picks it up, learns it.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier about they use this for farming.
Mm-hmm.
So, does that mean, I don't know how much you can say, but does that mean that there are people that farm with it, like grow crops?
Yeah.
Like just regular people?
Mm-hmm. So they have jobs. I mean, one of my villages, it's called, you'll find this out in the book, it's called the grower land. I mean, I was like, I think that's simple enough. What do we do here? We grow food. So yeah. It's the grower land. So they are not royal bloodlines. So they get magic from the palace, gives it to them, and they just grow crops like you normally would, except that their soil is magic. So they can kind of, they wouldn't control weather. There are like weather men, the weather. So yeah, it's just all their different jobs. The farmers go out, they grow crops, they can make them grow faster or more abundantly, but it just kind of speeds up the process. They can't make crazy concoctions with the magic. It still has to follow nature. So yeah, farming is one of the jobs that they have.
Nice. Yeah, I like how readily available it is in your world. So much of it. For my world, again, I mentioned that some of the highborn devils will have magic. And there is a difference in my world between demons and devils. You go into that. That's a whole other topic. But particularly, my main character, Cynthia, is half succubus. So all succubi have magic. They're highborn devils. So it's expected that she should have the potential for magic. But it eludes her. She doesn't have any. And so we'll see magic in the hands of the succubi, of the the devil lords and things like that, and a few other people. But those are the people that have it, the highborns.
I know, I love watching the magic in yours. Like the succubi magic is so fun. I'm just like,
yeah.
Read the book, guys. You need to see this magic system. It's so good.
And last question. What part of creating your magic system was the most fun?
All of it.
Yeah.
The most fun part of creating my own magic system was creating my own magic system. It was whatever I wanted it to be. I think most of us have grown up where we wish that we had magic, and you play, pretend with your friends, and obviously you all have magic at some point. And so it was really fun to just kind of like create my magic system and kind of live the magic. Like I did get to do whatever I wanted to do. I did get to use magic because I created it and I put my characters through it and the world. So that was definitely the most fun part for me, was coming up with magic, playing around with it, and then deciding what I did and I didn't like. You can watch so many, shows or movies or read books, and you're like, I don't like this part of the magic. And it's like, I like all parts of the magic because I made it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's mine too. That's fine. Same. Creating the system was the most fun because I mentioned that Cynthia was a Dungeons and Dragons character, and I kind of picked her up and just plunked her into this story that I wanted to tell. And that's why I've got a couple of videos out there about, making, world building your own, and cutting out all that kind of stuff. But I didn't really shave off any Dungeons and Dragons stuff. I just kind of went, well, yeah, it's magic. She's a wizard. She's got all different kinds of spells and blah, 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 blah. She wants to learn all these different kinds of spells. She certainly does not learn them in the book. But originally I had her, looking at like, oh, there's a fly spell and there's a fire spell and there's this kind of spell and that kind of spell. And I need to learn this spell and then that spell. And I got 9 chapters in before I realized I can't do this. This is not, original. It's not interesting. People have seen this before. The readers are going to see right through it and go, oh, this is Dungeons and Dragons,
Yeah.
So the editing process that I went through, I stopped all my writing. I went back and I just bulldozed through the entire thing, and editing those first 9 chapters and going in and thinking about how I wanted magic to work. that was a lot of fun because, like you said, it was all me. It was like, oh, how do I want magic to work? Suddenly it was like liberating. It was like I didn't need to worry about spells or rules or anything like that. I just made up whatever I wanted, and that was fun.
Yeah, I went through kind of the same thing with my book where I didn't really specify the rules and I was just kind of going around. And so the first draft of my book, oh my gosh, was the worst ever. It was like 33,000 words. Nothing happened. There were like 6 characters. It was just bad. And magic came up like 3 times. Like it was not part of the book. And so I was like, okay, I really have to decide what my rules are and actually implement it in the world. Like people want to read this magical book because there's magic. I like figure it out. And so it was the hardest thing I had to do was come up with the rules. I think it took me a couple months to like really make sure I had the rules. But then like you said, it was like the best thing you could do. It was super fun to do because now everything just made sense. Yeah.
That's awesome. So the hat is empty. We got through this. I think it was 13 questions. I forget, but that was a lot of fun. Definitely, for everyone watching, Queendom of Chaos is fantastic. Please, keep an eye out for it. I mentioned that in my Share the Love video that I did.
You did. Thank you so much.
But it was a lot of fun. And, I've beta read like a lot. I feel like I read more now that I'm writing than I was reading before.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that yours was definitely the standout.
Thank you so much.
Book. It really was. I really enjoyed it. So, yeah. So let's do another collabs. I'm not sure what we'll talk about. We'll talk about something.
Yes, let's do it. So thank you again for having me on your channel. This was a lot of fun, and I definitely look forward to more collabs with you for sure. Everyone make sure to go check out his book, A Flower in Hell, because it's awesome. Like everything Cynthia does makes me happy. Her fighting, like just everything is so awesome. Yeah. So again, I'm Megan Aldridge. I am a writer and proofreader. So if you need a proofreader for your novel, definitely go to meganaldridge.com and check that out. I love proofreading novels for indie authors. Like it's so much fun for me. So definitely check that out. And my debut novel, a dark fantasy historical romance titled Queendom of Chaos, is coming out spring of 2022.
Nice. And I'll have your socials linked in the description.
Perfect.
And of course, I am JM Chaley, and you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and read the first chapter of A Flower in Hell on jmchaley.com. So thanks for watching, everybody.